All right. So yeah, so like I said, just the Q4 promotions that we have going on here. So right, what we have here, I always just like to kind of share this first and foremost is just the Aruba contact sheet. Again, I know most people on this call have probably seen this, whether it's talking individually to us or just speaking with anyone on our team, looking on our website, anything like that. But always just like to share this because again, I will be sending this slide deck out after the call. So always just like to have it top of mind in case you can't happen to remember what one of our contacts are. So again, just always like to have this top of mind. The first thing that I wanted to dive into is looking at what is new in Q4. So Q4, a lot of the same promotions did just continue on into this quarter. So nothing really huge that changed over, but we did actually have one change that I think is going to be really beneficial for everybody. Is the 1, 2, 3 get an AP promo. We actually just had the addition to be able to trade in legacy Cisco APs. So each Cisco or Meraki AP does count as the same Aruba AP in the trade-in program. So on the next slide, I have some more information just to keep top of mind of what that promotion is. But again, before it was only trading in older Aruba equipment that made you eligible for that. But now we're actually allowing you to trade in Cisco or Meraki APs to be able to be eligible for that upgrade as well too. So these are the SKUs that are listed on there. And again, if you have any information you're looking to take advantage of this, please feel free to get in contact with myself, Stephanie, or Mike, and we'd be happy to get you all the right information and go ahead and let you take advantage. But again, it's a great opportunity for you to be able to trade up. Again, you get up to $125 per unit to go ahead and get these traded in. So then this right here is just what the promotion is exactly. So again, you can get up to $125 for trading in those products. But again, this now just has changed a little bit to include those Cisco products as well. So again, great program or promotion to take advantage of from your side if you're looking to trade in either some older Aruba products or some Cisco products to get you some additional funds. So these are the featured engage and grow spiffs that we have for this quarter. So as you can see up here, we have it in as the DCN switches, Edge Connect SSE, the core, just your APs and switches, and the networking as a service packs. So these, you have a lot of options to make some additional money from your side as well too. You get money for learning, for prospecting, for quoting, and for closing. So from start to finish, there's a lot of money on the table through the Engage and Grow program to be able to get some additional funds for your normal business. So again, to be able to run through this is just a great chart, just to be able to see kind of what it looks like and how much money you can make on these specific deals. Pardon me. So then this right here is the individual product spiffs. So those were just kind of categorized. So this is going to be more individual, getting just a little bit more in depth on what SKUs are actually eligible and how many points you get for those products as well too. So just wanted to include this as well as the previous slide, just to give you some more information on what products exactly are in there. And then we just wanted to provide an update as well too on the Instant On Action Partner Club. For those who may not be familiar, the Partner Club is a free program that you can sign up for through HPE. And what it does is it gives you 3.5% back on all of your sales from $1 on any Instant On products. So again, if this is not something that you are a member of, when I send this out in the bottom left, there's a register here link for you to go ahead and get signed up. Again, completely free, no revenue thresholds you need to hit, nothing like that. So again, great program if you're selling Instant On. What this update is an incentive that they are currently running right now as well too, where as an Action Partner Club member, you earn an additional $20 incentive for every Instant On access point that you purchase when you purchase a 1930 or 1960 series switch as well. So they do have to be on the same PO that gets sent in, and you can earn up to $200 back on this. So the great thing about it is how you earn the incentive is just purchasing it on the same PO. So all of the information that the Action Partner Club gets goes through disti. So as long as it's purchased through Ingram, you have that information there. We're going to report that to Aruba. They're going to go ahead and then at the end of the quarter, when they send you out your payment just for your 3.5% back, they're going to have the additional incentive on there as well too. So this is a great incentive just to know that you're getting a little bit of extra cash back or a little more incentive to kind of talking to your partners who may be buying a 1930 or 1960 series switch and be able to talk to them about their wireless products as well too for the access points. The cool thing about this as well too is if you are not a member of the Action Club, as soon as you sign up, you're eligible. So it's not something where it's going to take weeks and weeks for you to be signed up for this program. So again, if you have an opportunity that you might think fits the bill for this and you're not in this program, go ahead and get signed up right away. And again, from there, it just instantly gets put into your account and gets paid out from HPE each quarter. So great incentive that they're running right now for the access points in the switches. So then the last slide that I have here is just kind of a quick view of all of the channel promos that we have going on right now. So I'm not going to dive too far into all of these just because we got the incentive information right on there for you. And again, most of them have been going on for quite some time now, but just wanted to have this as well when I get it sent out to you. That way you have all that information top of mind and you might say, oh, I thought about the 5 for 3 promo or the Ubiquiti rip and replace, you can kind of just come back to this slide, check it out. And again, if you have any questions on any of the additional promotions or how you might be able to receive some additional discounting, please feel free to get in contact with anyone on our team and we are happy to assist. So that is all I had.
Perfect. And that did share properly, right?
Yes, I got you.
Perfect. Awesome. And I do encourage anybody, if there is any questions that you guys think of from now to the end, please feel free to drop them in. Connor's still going to be monitoring the chat. So anything that comes to mind, he can retroactively answer. So we're going to switch gears a little bit here, and we're going to talk about the ClearPass, HPE's ClearPass platform, which is a network access control. And my name's Brandon Atchley. I'm the technical solutions engineer here at Ingram Micro, and I focus on all things HPE Aruba. So if there's any technical discussions you need to have outside of this or any of the other products, please feel free to reach out to me. Similar slide to what Connor had. Doesn't have phone numbers, but just a quick team overview. We have Danielle Williams, who is our category business manager. She oversees the entire Aruba Ingram relationship from an operational standpoint. Moving down to the second tier, you have myself and John Bussard as the technical resources. So if there's any technical enablement training, that's where I come into play. And then John has a unique use case. He actually runs our entire HPE demo environment, our demo lab. So he doesn't just focus on Aruba, he focuses on the entire HPE stack from server storage to the entire networking portfolio, ClearPass, wired and wireless. So he has a really great perspective. And if there's anything anybody would like to see more in depth, please feel free to reach out and we can schedule you a demo. And then in the final tier of the pyramid there, we have Stephanie Finucane, Mike Herb, and Connor Pierce, who are our customer experience representatives. They're really helping on the sales side of it, helping you close deals, enable you to, kind of get more incentives, deal registration, help you with any troubles or issues. So if there's anything that we can assist with, please feel free to reach out to us. Now diving into the content. So Aruba ClearPass. So ClearPass is a network access control platform, and essentially the main capabilities is visibility, control, and enforcement, right? So visibility of the devices that are on your network, controlling what those devices and users can do while they're on your network, and then enforcing what parts of the network they can and cannot access, and if there's anything kind of negative that they're doing, making sure they're remediating those kind of issues. So it's overall improving your operational efficiency through those core components there. No, device visibility in networks tend to be kind of one of the biggest issues, right? A lot of the IT teams lack the tools to understand all the devices on their network, right? Whether it's a factory understanding the OT devices or the machinery that's going on, a medical industry, things like heart rate monitors or MRI machines that might be on the network as well. They don't have the tool set, or the tool set they have don't have the capabilities to really give them the full look at everything on the network. And when you don't understand everything on your network, sometimes that can create a problem because you don't necessarily know what you should allow and what you should deny. And denying the wrong thing could cause a lot of issues, right? You don't want to block an MRI time machine that you need for critical, medical use cases, or maybe an internal tool that you need for just operational. Now, here's some statistics, and they kind of go over a lot of the customers' challenges, but essentially the statistics are pointing out that a network access control solution is a critical component of their security stack, making sure that they have full visibility to understand all the IoT devices on, and not just IoT devices or the devices that you're necessarily bringing on, but maybe the BYOD solution that you're allowing your corporate guests or your employees to bring on your network as well. You need to be able to kind of understand and lock them down, and there's a huge percentage of growing clients with IoT still going through the roof with new devices and sensors coming on, and more push to have BYOD so employees can bring their own devices as we're utilizing and developing more tools. Now, here is the Edge Services platform, and this is the kind of going forward strategy that Aruba has been using for many years, and they will continue to use for many years. And all of the products and components that we have fall into these categories here, but today we're specifically going to highlight the protect with doing things like zero trust and SASE, getting better visibility and authentication into the network. But this is just a component into an overall larger network of products and how they can kind of stack into and be all utilized into one cohesive platform. Now a look at ClearPass in itself. So the ClearPass appliance is a multi kind of faceted appliance. It's not just doing simple network access control, but you can also use it to do things like a guest access, and maybe publish a captive portal for your wireless, or self sign-on for maybe just bringing your own devices. It has that policy engine to make sure that the users, depending on their user roles within the company or the devices that they're using, is enforced. And it has a lot of third-party integrations and reporting capabilities to make it really a true network access control, manage, and monitoring tool. It supports any vendor, so it's not a vendor agnostic or a vendor like specific or proprietary platform where you have to use it with Aruba switches or Aruba wireless. We can really integrate within any networking solution you have and push down those roles into those switches or wireless as well. It doesn't matter the device you're utilizing, whether it's iPhone or Android, Linux or Windows, it doesn't care. It'll profile all of them and onboard all of them, and it's utilizing multiple authentication methods and transport methods to essentially do all of its authentication and authorization for your network. Now, this slide is going to touch on a little bit of I should say a lot of it. It's the whole zero trust security foundation that Aruba has built out with the ClearPass platform. Starting off the visibility. So the visibility using Clients Insights or ClearPass Device Insight is really what we're utilizing to profile. And it's giving you a lot more in-depth look at those devices. And we'll talk more in depth about that and how they're some of the unique features we're utilizing to give you a lot better context of those devices. But after we've discovered those devices and gave you the visibility of what they are, we move on to the authentication piece where we make the users authenticate onto the network with their credentials or onboard with our guest portal or whatever method we've set up. Now with the visibility, we know the device, the users onboarded and authenticated onto the network, so we know the user, we know the device. Now we can apply our role-based access control to them. Based on the device and the user, we can use these two pieces of information to really understand what parts of the network they need to have access to, right? Just because I'm a corporate user at Ingram Micro doesn't mean I need to have all the access with my personal cell phone that I do with my corporate laptop, and it can understand and differentiate the two. So that way I'm really getting a customized look and access to the network based on all of those information. And it doesn't end there, though. Now we go to conditional monitoring. And the conditional monitoring now takes the information that it's gathered, right? It knows the device, it knows the user, it knows the roles I should have, and it shares those out to third-party systems. It can share it out to a firewall, your SD-WAN platform, maybe other 360 Exchange partners, like maybe a mobile device management solution, right? And we shared this out to those devices so they can continue to monitor these devices and make sure that they're doing what they need to do. Now, if a device on the network were to do something bad or something changes, the user's accessing a different way, that then goes into the enforcement and response with the policy manager, and it can revoke or change the access based on maybe time of day, right? Maybe it's after hours, and we're going to pull some of those use cases or credentials or network access from those users. And this is really how our zero trust framework works from a ClearPass point of view. Now, what's built into it? And there's a lot, like I mentioned in this tool, from our services engine, from things like policy authentication, the guest capabilities, radius authentication. There's a whole slew of tools we have there. Then we have additional tools like the advanced reporting. We have the ability to reach out to like LDAP or your Active Directory to get user information. And then we even have tools that can do policy simulations, right? So if we need to understand, hey, if I make this policy change and I enforce it on the network, what are some of the things that I'm going to encounter? So that way, if there's any issues, it can kind of simulate those and tell you before you put a policy-wide issue into effect and say, hey, if you apply this now, these critical systems are going to get blocked on the network, right? So you can kind of have that foresight. And then the last component is that security exchange, which is a big piece of what we're going to talk about. Has a lot of APIs and connections, so that way we can tie into all the other security vendors, so that way we really have a complete solution, and it's not really a siloed approach, it's an integrated approach. First, we're going to talk about that visibility, because the visibility is really one of the most important elements of this, right? If we have devices coming onto the network and we really can't tell what they are, right, whether it's an IoT sensor or maybe a surveillance camera we don't need it to say just generic device. We really need to have a better visibility, and we need it to be constantly real time, right? So as new devices come onto our network, we're profiling them and we're understanding everything that is living on our network, so we can act if something happens. And we do that through one of our applications called Device Insight. So Device Insight is the profiling engine. It lives in the cloud. It utilizes things like crowdsourcing and machine learning, and it categorizes them into buckets. So that way, when a new device comes on, it can fingerprint it and it can digitally analyze it. So that way, it gives you a better look of exactly what the device is. And to show you an example of that, we have an access camera. So in generic use cases of some other network access control platforms, they'll do static attributes like Nmap or SNMP to profile that device, and typically you're not gaining a whole lot from that. It's going to tell you this is a generic Windows or maybe a generic Linux device. It's not really going to give you anything that's really usable by you, right? That doesn't tell me a lot. Now, however, when we apply the machine learning to it and we're taking things like the vendor information or MAC address, maybe the ports that it's utilizing, some other scans that we're doing like DHCP or user agents, we can pull all of that data together, apply it to machine learning, put it to the cloud, and then we can get out something that looks like this, where it's not just saying it's a Windows device, but it can actually tell us it's an access device, right? And just that alone is giving us a lot more information, because now that I know it's the vendor's access, I can say, oh, okay, that must be one of my cameras. Well, but it's not going to stop there. It's going to tell me it's an access security camera. Access doesn't sell just cameras. There are other applications and devices that they sell, so we don't, want to be guessing still. So now we know, hey, it's the camera, but then it's also going to go one step further to say, hey, this is a Q35 network camera, and I can, as a administrator, I can say, oh, those were the new cameras we just installed. Let's put that in the category of our network surveillance VLAN and make sure it's, separated off the rest of the network. And the cool thing about it is it's not even something manual that I would have to do. It's something automatic that you can set up on ClearPass, so that way after it profiles it, you can have a configuration for these cameras, so it'll automatically drop it in that bucket for you. Now let's look at it in healthcare. Right. So when we utilize ClearPass with our access points, and like I mentioned, it doesn't matter if it's Aruba, it could be another solution. Just Aruba, we happen to have different radios on our access points that can do Zigbee and Bluetooth that can enable different IoT devices. And if we're looking at healthcare, we might have things like medical scanners, heartbeat monitors, right? There's a whole number of different devices in the medical industry that could be getting on the network. And this is going to actually allow us to take all of that data, profile it, and tell us exactly what they are, so we know that these are medical devices and they should live in a very sensitive part of the network, because we don't need them to be able to access or be accessed outside of what the devices that need to access them. And then the last slide on the visibility component is just showing you, getting a little bit more in depth of that cloud-enabled crowdsourcing. So it's really cool. When a device comes on, let's say it's a brand new device that just came out, maybe Access released a new camera and it's not in this portal yet. You as a user has the ability to go in and say, hey, I do know this is that new camera because I just plugged it in. This is the only device that's new on my network. And you can go in and you can register it and say, hey, this is this Access camera. And what Aruba does is it pushes it up to the cloud portal, and after a certain amount of customers or users have pushed that data in, it'll finally release a signature and say, hey, based on our crowdsourcing, we've seen that all of the users are saying this specific digital fingerprint is registering back to this device. And from that point on, when that device pops onto the network in the future, it'll automatically register as that specific device. So there are checks and balances to make sure that we're not profiling wrong, and we are taking a large sample size. But the cool thing is this is just a database that's ever growing, right? So as time goes on, everything's going to be within this, so we will have 100% visibility unless it's something brand new coming to market. Now let's switch gears here and talk about the 360 security exchange that I mentioned in the previously. And this is a huge power behind the ClearPass platform is the integrations that we have, right? It's truly vendor agnostic. So we don't have to rely on and say, hey, you have to have this Aruba hardware in there. Now, I'm not going to tell you that if you don't have certain Aruba switches or access points in there, maybe you don't, you'll get additional benefits from there because we have developed those in mind to be used with ClearPass. However, it's not a must have, right? The basic authentications and compliance and capabilities are there no matter what vendor, whether you're using Cisco or Juniper for your switching, maybe Extreme for your wireless, right? No matter who you're using for your infrastructure, we can integrate it. The ClearPass is going to have the components, like I mentioned, the device insights, the profile, we can analyze, we can connect and secure everything, and then we can relay that data out to our security partners like Palo Alto, Fortinet, Checkpoint, right, to really have end-to-end security compliance, right? We don't want it to stay at the ClearPass appliance. We want to make sure that all of your other checks and balances in your security stack has the most rich amount of data to understand these devices and what they should and shouldn't be connecting to, and the vice versa. With ClearPass, we want to be able to pull from the firewall and understand what these clients are doing and make sure that we don't need to restrict any access or maybe pull user credentials from Okta for two-factor authentication so that way we can have better security checks and balances in place. Just a little more look of what it is, right? It's a two-way contextual information share, right, between the two platforms. It's essentially using API calls inbound and outbound to share data. Can also be using syslog events. So if a firewall registers something that happened, ClearPass can pull that syslog and kind of digest it to understand what it was trying to connect to, who the user was connecting to, the kind of who, what's, and where, whys. And there's no additional cost to this. This is baked into the ClearPass platform. And the greatest thing is it keeps growing. It's not like we've gotten to a point with this 360 security exchange where, hey, the partners that we have are the partners we have, and we're not ever looking to grow beyond that. If this new security vendor pops up tomorrow and becomes, makes a huge ripple within the environment, and we realize that's an adoption point that a lot of our partners are adopting, we're going to make sure we bring them on and we integrate them into this so that way we have full end-to-end coverage. We're forever growing this platform. It's not like it's just done and it's hit a ceiling. It's always evolving. Just a quick snapshot of some of the integrations that we have and where they live, right? As far as the security play, the authentication, logging, even simple things like messaging, right? We can tie it into Teams or Slack so that way if there's an event notification that you need to have right away, right? We can push those out through those platforms. The user endpoint management systems, if you're using something like Citrix, ZenMobile, or AirWatch, any of these platforms, we can tie those data back and forth. It's a huge partnership and integration platform that we have. Quick look at the steps we take to pull and push the data, right? So step one, the user authenticates onto the network, right? So we join the network, whether I plug into a physical port on the network or I join the Wi-Fi. ClearPass is going to authenticate that user and understand, hey, who you are, like we've seen in the previous slide. We're going to take a look at the visibility of the device. We're going to look at the credentials of that user connecting on that device. And then once we have that, we share that over to the firewall or the intrusion prevention, receives the context from ClearPass so it can understand, hey, a new device and a new user jumped on the network, and here's what the policy should be around it. This is a guest user, so I want you to limit it down, or this is a corporate user. This is the access it should have. Now, here's it in the reverse. Let's say a user that's on the network starts trying to upload threats or is malicious or, kind of malicious to the network, right? We don't want them on. There's something bad about this client. The firewall registers it, right? There's an event that's saying, hey, you're trying to go to sites that you're not supposed to. You're trying to upload malicious payloads, right? It just sees something that says, hey, we need to block you. It's going to share that data back down to ClearPass. ClearPass is going to put out a new policy and authorization and limit that from the network so that way it isolates it. This way, if that client is infected, it's not going to spread throughout the rest of the devices on the network, and make sure that you can contain any infection that happens. And now that's where the 360 exchange with one of the messaging platforms comes in, and I can see, hey, this device was registered as having a malicious agent on there. We've quarantined it. You need to do something now, right before something else happens. And then just a quick snapshot of some of the partners and the integration levels we have as far as security goes. So as you see, Palo Alto, Juniper, and Checkpoint, we have full integrations. Fortinet, we have a limited integration. We can pull information from them. so we understand any security threats. However, there's a limitation on the Fortinet side of some of the data we can push out, and then SonicWall is in a beta stage where we're trying to fully integrate SonicWall into the platform. And then this is just showing a full look at the user coming onto the network, getting the information of who, what, where, why, and when from Active Directory, from that user endpoint management system, and then ClearPass, after it's ingested that information, it's then pushing it out to maybe our network, pushing out to the firewall, pushing it out to SSO for single sign-on, right? It's making sure it's not just kind of taking the data to understand, it's also sharing it out to the other devices, so making sure that your entire security stack is talking to each other. Alrighty, now switching gears a little bit here, we're going to talk about the guest capabilities within ClearPass, and this is one of the bigger selling points that I've seen. A lot of people do love ClearPass for the authentication and the visibility, but some people strictly go with ClearPass just for the guest capabilities, right? You can customize your guest network, put your own branding and your own fields to collect data, right? If you want to be able to do advertising, you can have advertisements sent out with third-party applications, maybe email notifications, maybe you're a store and you want to put coupons out, right? There's a lot of capabilities in there. You can tie into third-party billing systems, right? If we want to bill for usage of the Wi-Fi, we want to maybe limit the usage, we have the ability to do that as well. And then it's you can do time-based, right? If you want to just say, hey, you get a free 1 hour and then I cut you off, right? It has the ability to do all of those capabilities as well. We do have sponsored guest capabilities as well. So let's say I'm a new visitor, right? Or let's say I have a visitor coming into Ingram Micro. They go to jump on the network, right? They're going to be prompted with a screen to collect the information, right? Who they are, their contact information. And then there's going to be a section that says, who's the sponsored person, right? And that's where they would put my email address in and say, hey, Brandon Atchley is the person that's sponsoring me and who I'm here to visit. After they fill that out and submit it, it'll send me a notification and say, hey, somebody's requesting access to the Wi-Fi. And it's going to give me the look of, hey, who this person is based on all the information they filled out. And being that I'm the one sponsoring them, I have the ability to allow or deny it, right? If this is somebody that's truly needing access and I trust, I can accept them. They will then get information passed back out to them, showing them a token or a password to be able to utilize to jump on the network. And at that point, they will have access in a guest fashion, right? It'll still limit them and segment them off the network so they're not accessing the corporate network, but it still will give them access to access the internet. Next is onboarding devices, right? So we talked a lot about guests coming on. Now, what about just our own users within the network, right? Let's say it's a college campus, a new semester starting. We have a lot of kids coming on, right? We can make it the wild, wild west where we just open the networks or we isolate all the networks. So that's a lot of work or limiting work. If we're onboarding everybody, it's a lot of work for our IT staff. And if we're limiting everything, that might cause issues where, maybe people are trying to stream or connect to each other, right? So we're kind of giving them flexibility with the onboarding capabilities of ClearPass, right? So the users can own their own devices. If they're replacing their devices often because they're upgrading, right? This is a good use case for them. Doesn't matter the device they're connecting for. Doesn't matter if it's a work device or a personal device, right? This platform can onboard anything. So whether it's for students coming into the new semester or whether it's just your employees and you have refresh cycles with your corporate devices and you don't want IT to have to always onboard them manually, this is a platform that they can utilize. And essentially what it will do is it'll give them a screen where they can go and they can enter the information we need, right? So maybe the MAC address of the device. Well, I shouldn't say maybe. The MAC address is one of the important factors, so we can understand that device coming on. A name that we're going to name it saying, hey, this is Brandon's Xbox or this is Brandon's work PC. I fill out the data there, and then it onboard it based off the credentials. So me as a user on the network, right, whether it's a school environment and I have my student email address because I've had to have been registered in the system at least for that, or it's a corporate user, right, I'll sign into it with those corporate credentials, and then from there I can onboard my devices. Now, inverse though, let's say we're utilizing this for IoT devices, things that we can't onboard. They might not have the screen that I can onboard or register them. I can register them myself with my computer or my phone. I can put all the needed information in for the device. Maybe it's a smartwatch or something intelligent. Anything essentially can go on there. I can self-register it and it'll do multiple pre-shared keys. So that way they're still isolating. There's still some security around this, but they don't have necessarily the ability to interface with the network themselves. And then this is a look at the adaptive capabilities of ClearPass, right? So whether it's a enterprise laptop that's going to have a whole different set of access because it's a corporate-owned device, or it's a BYOD phone and I only need it to be accessing the internet, right? It can change. So it's me as Brandon, actually the user on the corporate phone or the corporate laptop and my personal phone, right, can have separate permissions. It's going to base it based off of the device and the context behind it. Onboard gives you the capability of a self-service portal. It can push down your certificates, right? So if you want a cert to live on those machines, so that way you can do things like SSL inspection for your security to understand the information going through your network. It's a full self-service work, kind of flow, so that way your IT staff doesn't have to be burdened by another kind of task on onboarding and managing all of these devices. On guard, and I apologize, there's a lot of different content here, and that's just kind of should highlight the vast amount of the ability that ClearPass has, right? So these are all different capabilities in ClearPass, and just kind of highlighting how valuable and how powerful it really is. So on guard is the capability of doing network health checks, right? So it supports multiple operating systems, and what it is an agent, and it can be a persistent agent or it can be a dissolvable agent, right? And what that means is when my device, I go to register my device on the network, right? Maybe with onboard. Maybe OnGuard is a component that I enforce, and I say, hey, before I allow your device on the network, you need to install this agent and it needs to scan your device, right? And it could be looking for a number of things, antivirus or firewall, maybe the latest Windows updates, right? And it can be, like I mentioned, persistent or dissolvable. So I can have it just at the time you onboard the device, it does it that one time and it dissolves away, so that agent just basically uninstalls itself. Or maybe this is a corporate owned device that I want the agent to live on and constantly monitor these things. So I want to make sure that you're not disabling your antivirus or turning off your firewall while you're on the corporate device, right? Or sorry, corporate network. And this can be use case for BYOD as well. So maybe I'm a user and I say, hey, I don't want you to have your agent living on this. That's where the dissolvable agent comes in, and I can say, hey, you install it just at the time you're onboarding your device. We just make sure that your iPhone's not jailbroken. There's no viruses that's living on your machine. And after we've scanned it, it uninstalls itself and you're good to go. And this is a look at that health check that I was talking about, right? So I came onto the network and I've set a set of rules, right? And in this specific screenshot, the rule that I'm setting is saying that, hey, I need to have the semantic endpoint agent running. I need to be running the latest version. I need to be doing scans at least X amount of days, right? There's a full rule that goes into place. Now, let's say I'm a user that doesn't. I've disabled the semantic endpoint agent or I've disabled the scans. What's going to happen is going to block my access from the network resource. And it's going to say, hey, you're a non-compliant device because you've shut off this. And it'll tell you, it'll give you that capability, and okay, well, what do I need to do to fix this problem so I have access? What it'll essentially do is it can do auto remediation. Apologize about that. It can do automatic remediation for the network. So essentially, or for your device. So if there was a semantic endpoint agent that needed to be turned on, it has the capability of turning on that agent, or it allows you to basically tells you and says, hey, you need to enable this in order to access the network. And once you do, it'll give you the access and bring you back on the network and give you access to the corporate resources like you should be able to. Few more slides and we're done. So I did want to give you an overview of how ClearPass is licensed. We're not going to go really in depth in the weeds here, but I'm showing you that there is a VM appliance or a hardware appliance that this lives on top of. Then there are access licenses that are the basic component that gives you all of your authentication functions. There is also an entry license that we'll talk about in a second, but the access license is kind of the core component. It gives you all of the authentication. And then the on-guard or the onboard agents are what live on top of it. So the onboard would help you with things like bring your own device, and the on-guard is going to help you with the endpoint health and posture. And these are all, the appliance is a perpetual, whether it's virtual or hardware. As far as the licensing is concerned, you can buy those in a perpetual form, or you can purchase those in a subscription form, 1, 3, and 5 years, and then they have licensed tiers. So we can do as small as 100 users, or we can go pretty large and do 10K, and I believe there is even above 10K. I think it goes up to 100K of devices. Now, I wanted to take a look at the entry license. So they did come out with the entry license to be a low-cost option, and there is an upgrade path for the entry licenses. So if you need, let's say you start out with entry to get in the door low cost, and then you realize, hey, I need some of these features like TechAx Plus, Security Exchange, or the endpoint profiling, we do have the ability to add those on. The entry is designed just to be a basic authentication capability. And if you do want to upgrade, there is a premium. So I always try to recommend people to purchase the access license right at the beginning, because they're going to find the most value with getting those features like Security Exchange that I've mentioned numerous times, of sharing that data with other devices within your network or platforms within your network. The last thing is, if you do purchase the entry licenses, OnGuard is not compatible with it. OnGuard does require access in order to work because of some of the posture and endpoint profiling that the entry license doesn't do versus the access license. Alrighty, in the home stretch, just 4 more slides here. So why ClearPass? Multi-vendor, right? We don't have that lock-in like I've mentioned. We have those third-party integrations to make it a truly a vendor-agnostic platform. The basis of the platform was user experience driven. We wanted to make that when users are utilizing it and coming onto the network and utilizing Onboard or OnGuard, that it's really tailored to them so that they're not going to have a hard time utilizing the platform. But then it's also built with user use cases or business use cases in mind, so that way we're giving the administrations and the companies the tools needed, like I mentioned, those reporting and analytics functions, to make sure that you're maintaining your compliance. And a segue into my reporting, the insights. So you have a one-stop shop reporting dashboard where you can do things like your device inventory. You can make custom alerts for certain events that are going on your network. You have the ability to export and import different templates, and then you have the ability to email those out at a certain frequency, either using an HTML or a CSV format for that data. And then some extra highlights. The ClearPass platform can help you become HIPAA compliant or PCI compliant, depending on how you're utilizing and deploying it. It is FIPS 140-2 Level 1 certified and is Common Criteria certified. And then the last 2 pieces are the fact that we do have the DoD IN certification, and we do have the Cyber Catalyst designation by Marsh Cyber Catalyst program. And then the last slide is just the Gartner 2023 Critical Capabilities Report, showing that for network security and network access control, Aruba was number 2, only beat by Fortinet, and that was only by 0.2%. And if you look across the board of all the pieces that were wired, wireless management, right, Aruba overall ranked very high within this Gartner Critical Capabilities Report. And that is all I have.